Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Michael and Dell MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Michael and Dell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Proclamations bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Proclamations queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Got a lot to cover. Here's what we're going to talk about today. President Donald Trump announced yesterday that he has, in his words, completely terminated every single action President Joe Biden signed using the Autopen. We have the details. Larry Summers has been banned for life from a prestigious economic club over his involvement with the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. We talked yesterday about the $1 billion COVID fraud in Minnesota under Governor Tim Walz's watch. You would think that this would be big news, right? But transcripts from the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, show that Walz's name was not even mentioned this past week. The U.S. Postal Service pushed for an all-electric mail fleet, and it is falling miserably. Short of expectations is an understatement, despite more than $3 billion in taxpayer funding already spent. You're not going to believe this one, but I promise I'm not making it up. And Michael and Susan Dell are pledging to donate $6.25 billion to help fund Trump accounts. These are the savings accounts for newborns that is part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Got a lot to cover. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
And with that, the stroke of a real pen, President Trump announced yesterday that he has, in his words, completely terminated every single action President Joe Biden signed using the Autopen. Not reviewed, not questioned. He terminated them. Gone. Poof. Disappeared. As if they never happened. Because I guess maybe they didn't, since Joe Biden didn't actually sign them. He put it very plainly on Truth Social, the president that is. Any executive order, proclamation, memo, pardon, anything Biden signed by Autopen is now, quote, null, void, and of no further force or effect. He even added that anyone who received a pardon or a commutation under those signatures should be aware that it's now invalid. Now, let that sink in. We're talking about potentially years of presidential actions wiped out with one announcement. Now, Trump has been hammering this Autopen issue for months. He's been, he said that Joe Biden used it so often that staffers were basically running the government with a machine. And if you remember last week, he said roughly 92% of Biden's signatures were Autopen. That's the number he's running with. So the obvious question is, can President Trump do this? Well, here's where it gets interesting. A federal defense attorney told Newsmax that Trump can void those orders, but only if the Autopen was used without Biden's approval. That's the key, because according to the Justice Department's own legal memos, a president doesn't actually have to hold the pen himself. If he authorizes the signature, even if a staffer presses the button, it's legally valid. But if Biden wasn't aware, didn't authorize it, or staff used it on their own, then yes, those actions could be challenged and even thrown out. And here's where the GOP-led House Oversight Committee comes in. They've already questioned whether Joe Biden personally approved many of these Autopen signed actions. Their report says some documents lack clear evidence that Biden ever reviewed them. And they've urged the DOJ to investigate whether presidential authority was in fact misused. You see where this leads. If Trump believes Biden did not actually authorize some of these executive actions, if he believes staff were signing on behalf of a disengaged president, someone who didn't know where he was, then he's arguing that Biden's signature, the basis of the presidential authority, wasn't real. And folks, that opens a can of worms Washington has never seen or dealt with before. We're talking executive orders, national emergency renewals, federal appointments, and yes, those pardons, the hundreds, thousands of pardons that Joe Biden or someone approved during the Biden administration. Now, we know that Hunter's pardon was personally signed by Joe Biden. So evidently he had enough sense and knew that in order for his son's pardon to not be challenged, he needed to sign it. So maybe that's an indicator that a lot of these other pardons, they recognize that there could be a problem with. Any one of those, the federal appointments and the national emergency renewals, if invalidated, is going to probably lead to lawsuits, appeals, and constitutional showdowns for months, if not years. Biden aides have admitted he used the Autopen frequently for proclamations, holiday statements, condolence letters, and yes, executive orders, especially when traveling or undergoing medical treatment. None of that is illegal. Again, the key here is as long as Joe Biden personally approved them. He had to literally say, I want this order signed. You can use the Autopen, but I understand what I'm doing here. This is what I want signed, and then it has to be carried out. But that's the question that President Trump's throwing up, that he's putting the spotlight on. And now the ball moves to Congress, the DOJ, and most likely the courts, because the ripple effects here are enormous. We're watching something, again, we've never seen it in American history. A sitting president declaring that the previous president's signatures, and therefore his authority, may not have been valid. This is going to be a long, drawn-out fight, and it is long from over. Talk about a stunning fall from grace in the so-called elite circles of academia and government. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, once one of the most powerful economic minds in Washington, is officially out, blacklisted, canceled for life. The American Economic Association, which is one of the most prestigious groups for economists in the country, has permanently banned Summers for life after bombshell emails exposed just how cozy he remained with Jeffrey Epstein, even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting sex from a minor, when he should have known better by then. Let me repeat that. This guy was still palling around with a convicted pedophile after he'd served time. And not just emails. We're talking full-on honeymooning on Epstein's Caribbean island, flying on the infamous Lolita Express, and exchanging hundreds of messages about women, Harvard, and get this, asking Epstein for dating advice. Wow. Literally, you can't make this up. Now, to put this in perspective, Mr. Summers was a top Clinton guy. He served in the Obama administration. He ran Harvard, advised presidents, taught future elites, and yet he saw nothing wrong with maintaining a relationship with a man at the center of a global child sex trafficking ring. Now, you tell me what he was thinking. The AEA didn't mince words either. They called Summers' conduct fundamentally inconsistent with professional integrity and completely banned him from attending, speaking, or even refereeing any AEA-related event ever again. Oh, and if you're wondering, yes, this is the same Larry Summers who was forced to resign as Harvard president after implying women weren't suited for science and math. That was back in 2005. Seems like old habits die hard, huh? This scandal, like many tied to Epstein, just keeps peeling back layers. Summers' emails with Epstein stretched from 2013 all the way through 2019, just months before Epstein's arrest. This wasn't some passing acquaintance. This was a long-term friendship full of conversations that reportedly range from cringeworthy to downright creepy. One of the emails has Summers joking about how half the IQ in the world is possessed by women. Another has him telling Epstein that he's trying to avoid being the friend without benefits while chasing some woman. Wow. Now, Summers is on leave from Harvard, gone from OpenAI's board, booted from a hedge fund consultancy, and as of this week, completely exiled from the world of mainstream economics. But here's the bigger question, folks. How many more names are on that Epstein list? We're still waiting for full transparency, because if someone like Summers, a former Treasury Secretary, Harvard president, top Democrat insider, was involved, what else is being hidden? More to come. Everyone says they'll start after the holidays, and that's exactly why most people never tackle those extra pounds at all. Joey Hudson here. Right now, PhD Weight Loss is making it easy to start before the new year with a bonus designed to get you moving now. They're adding 2 free weeks to your program. That means you can ramp up during the holidays and start the new year already working towards your goals. Those 2 free weeks mean you won't roll into January feeling behind. You'll hit January already losing, already feeling better, already in control. PhD's metabolic reset system teaches your body to burn fat first. No drugs, no starvation diets, no endless workouts, just a smarter science-based system that fits real life. And when you mention 2 weeks on the phone, they'll waive your consultation fee and pay for the cost of your food during the entire program. There's no reason to wait, no reason to repeat last year. Call PhD Weight Loss today and start 2026 already ahead. 864-644-1900. Call today. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Don't wait. Do it today. Well, folks, every once in a while, Washington surprises you, and not in the usual way, not with some midnight regulation, not with a tax hike tucked into the pages of a 4,972-page spending bill, but with something that actually lifts people up, something big, bold, and yes, beautiful. Let's dive into this. That's exactly what we're seeing with President Trump's signature achievement. The one big, beautiful bill signed into law on Independence Day, July the 4th. It's true Trump fashion, fireworks and all. And inside that massive piece of legislation is one of the most ambitious, transformational, generational investments this country has made in ordinary American families in decades. They're called Trump accounts. Are you familiar with this? Have you seen this? Probably not, because probably like me, you haven't read the one big beautiful bill for the whole thing. Trump accounts. They're personal savings and investment accounts for every American child born between January 1st of this year, 2025, and December 31st of 2028. And the federal government seeds each one with $1,000 at birth. No strings, no loopholes, no fine print that gets you later. You get a Social Security number, you get an account, that's it. Now, parents and relatives can add to the account up to $5,000 a year, and the cap could rise with inflation after 2027. But here's the key. The money is locked in until the child turns 18. Can't touch it until they turn 18. And when that young American hits adulthood, they've got a running start. College, trade school, their first home, starting a business. That door is cracked open just a little bit wider. And that, my friends, is what Trump always promised. A hand up, not a handout. But here's where the story gets kind of interesting, and honestly, pretty inspiring too. Michael Dell, the Michael Dell, founder of Dell Technologies, and his wife Susan have stepped forward with one of the largest private sector commitments to American children in history. They're pledging $6.25 billion of their charitable funds to expand the Trump Accounts program far beyond babies born during those 4 qualifying years. So let me repeat that. $6.2 billion with a B. That money will seed 25 million additional Trump accounts with $250 each, meaning if you're a child under 10 born before the qualifying date, chances are you're going to get one. And when the Dells released their statement, it was refreshingly simple. No political grandstanding, no corporate jargon. They said, and I'm quoting here, these investment accounts are simple, secure, and structured to grow in value through market returns over time. At age 18, these young Americans, they can have a financial foundation for continued education, again, job training, home ownership, or future savings. It's a simple yet very powerful idea. A simple yet powerful idea. Sounds a lot like the original spirit of America, doesn't it? You work hard, you invest, you build for the next generation, and you give your kids a better world than the one you inherited. It's just that simple. Now, why would a couple like Michael and Susan Dell, billionaires, entrepreneurs, global philanthropists, invest billions into a federal program for American kids? Because they looked at the numbers, and the numbers tell a pretty incredible story. According to projections from the Treasury Office of Tax Analysis, these Trump accounts, if fully funded, could grow into nearly 1.9 million by the time the child turns 28. Now let that sink in. $1 million plus waiting for you before your 30th birthday, simply by investing early and letting compound interest do what compound interest does best. Even with more conservative assumptions, lower end market returns, those accounts still could reach $600,000 or more by age 28. And listen to this. Even if a family never adds a single dollar to the account, that initial $1,000 seed from the government could grow into anywhere from $3,000 to nearly $14,000 by age 18. That's without touching it, without contributing, nothing, just growth. Now compare that to the typical American experience. Most young adults start off in the red. Student loans, credit cards, maybe a car payment. They just spend irresponsibly. Trump accounts flip that story on its head. Suddenly, a generation of Americans begins life not in debt, but with assets, with savings, with opportunity. And opportunity, my friends, is the beating heart of the American dream. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is full of these kinds of provisions, and we're going to dig into more of those as time permits in coming shows. A massive child care tax credit expansion, incentives for first-time home buyers, a historic apprenticeship and trades training investment, long overdue, if you ask me. Border security enhancements, of course. We've seen some of those already take effect. A nationwide energy permitting overhaul. A requirement that every federal agency cut at least 10% of its regulatory burden within 2 years. And yes, the most aggressive push in modern history to bring manufacturing back home. It's a bill that simply says America should build again. America should dream again, and America should grow again, stronger, younger, freer. Now, President Trump is expected to talk more about this in the coming days about the Trump accounts. We'll cover that when he does, but the significance of this Dell contribution, it's already clear. This isn't just about philanthropy. It isn't just about good press. This is about leadership. You got a major American business. They're looking at a federal policy, believing in it and saying, I want in, I want to expand this, I want to invest in the next generation of Americans. And frankly, I wish more corporate leaders would take note. Instead of preaching about climate sins or policing pronouns, this is an investment that actually changes lives. It lifts families, it builds wealth instead of guilt, it prepares young Americans for adulthood, for responsibility, for freedom. And the symbolism of doing all this in the aftermath of an Independence Day signing ceremony back in the summer, that doesn't go unnoticed. July 4th has always been about liberty, about a nation declaring that individuals matter, that people can chart their own destiny. What better day to sign a bill that gives millions of kids a head start on doing exactly that? Folks, I've seen a lot of Washington bills come and go, spending packages, omnibus monsters, continuing resolutions that don't resolve anything, but the One Big Beautiful Bill and the Trump accounts inside it, it's different. This one actually might live up to its name. And with private sector partners like Michael and Susan Dell stepping in with billions of dollars, it's no longer just a government program. It's a national project, a cross-generational investment in American greatness. And if there's one thing this country still knows how to do, it's rise to greatness when someone finally points the way. And we have Donald Trump leading the way right now. Let me give you a quick update on the story that has been talked about past few days, that of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and the fraud that's being uncovered in COVID funds, that he evidently was not watching the hen house and the fox got in. Of course, Walz, a Democrat, former VP running mate of Kamala Harris, he's at the center of what is shaping up to be one of the largest COVID-era fraud cases in the country. We're talking about $300 million in stolen funds, taxpayer money meant for hungry children during the pandemic, funneled through a federally backed nutrition program. The DOJ just charged the 78th defendant in the Feeding Our Future scam, and over 50 people have already been convicted. Many of them tied to Minnesota's Somali community, which played a major role in Walz's political coalition. So here's the outrage. Everybody's asking, where's the coverage? Why are we turning on NBC and it's not the main story? Why is ABC not even mentioning it? Where's CBS? Where's CNN? Nothing. Nothing on ABC, nothing on CBS, not on NBC Nightly News. According to a search of transcripts, not one of those networks has even mentioned Tim Walz's name in the last week. Not one. If this were happening in Florida or Texas, Palmetto State of South Carolina, you better believe the media would be lighting their hair on fire. But because this is a blue state governor, a former Democrat vice president candidate, there's radio silence, crickets, nothing. Now, to be fair, Walz has addressed the scandal, kind of. On Meet the Press, when asked if he takes responsibility, he said he does for putting people in jail. Not exactly a strong admission of failure, especially considering the scheme went on for years under his watch. He was sitting in the governor's mansion. He added Minnesota is a generous state, a prosperous state, a well-run state, he said, and then warned against demonizing an entire community. But folks, this isn't about race or ethnicity. This is about accountability, period, end of sentence. Let's not forget, a group of Minnesota state employees reportedly tried to warn the DNC and even Kamala Harris before the 2024 election, calling out Walz for what they called incompetence, fraud and scandals, and retaliation. And what did Democrats do? They put him on the national ticket. They put him out front and center. President Trump didn't mince words. He tore into Walz on Truth Social over Thanksgiving, accusing the governor of doing nothing, quote, out of fear of incompetence and mocking his lack of action. Look, that's blunt. Yes, that's typical Trump blunt. But it's not like the criticism is coming out of nowhere. And here's the real deal. This isn't just a scandal of epic scale. It's a media blackout. Total silence from the same networks that gave wall-to-wall coverage over PPP loan fraud or anything tied to Republican-led states. Folks, this double standard is why trust in the mainstream press is in the gutter. It's non-existent. We're watching $300 million in fraud, dozens of arrests, and a sitting governor whose administration dropped the ball, and they won't even cover it. It's not just corruption in Minnesota. It's corruption in journalism, in the media. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem walked into the cabinet meeting with President Trump yesterday and dropped a political grenade right in the middle of the table. And she didn't ease into it. She went straight to Minnesota and straight to Governor Tim Walz. Noem told the president that after digging into Minnesota's visa programs, the numbers were even worse than expected. Now, this is something that Walz never expected, that the COVID fraud would lead to an investigation into how all those Somalis got into his state to begin with. In her words, not mine, 50% of Minnesota's visa programs, visas are fraudulent. Half, not a handful, not a few bad applications, half of all visa holders in Minnesota flagged for fraud. And she didn't stop there. She said Governor Walz is either an idiot, did it on purpose, or, as she put it, both. Now, you could hear the cabinet room crack up, but underneath the humor is a very serious problem, because what Noem laid out isn't small potatoes. She says people were entering the U.S. under false identities, claiming relatives who weren't relatives, entering bogus marriages, gaming every corner of the visa system. And once here, they signed up for taxpayer-funded programs and siphoned off what Noem says amounts to hundreds of billions of dollars. Exactly what we suspected. Though Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz ignored it, denied it. This isn't a typo. Hundreds of billions. Former Minneapolis Sheriff Rich Stanek backed it up, saying Minnesota's Minnesota nice attitude allowed the fraud to explode. Folks weren't checking. They weren't asking questions. They were taking people at their word while the system was being abused at a very massive scale. Now listen to this. According to Homeland Security, USCSI conducted home visits at 1,000 immigrant households, and nearly half showed clear fraud. We're talking about phony marriages, visa overstays, fake employers, forged documents, people claiming to work for businesses that don't even exist. Name it, and they did it to take our money. And remember, this comes on the heels of the $1 billion Feeding Our Future fraud, where Minnesota taxpayer dollars meant for feeding kids instead bought luxury cars, lake homes, overseas real estate, and authorities say some of that money went right back to the Somali terror group Al-Shabaab. So when President Trump hears all of this, he unloads, calling out Somali immigrants who, quote, do nothing but complain, and blasting Ilhan Omar directly, calling her garbage, saying he's tired of people who come from hell and complain about the country that gave them everything. Ilhan Omar, I've said from day one, does not deserve to be in the United States House of Representatives. She is bad news. Now, was what the president said blunt? Of course it was. It's Donald Trump. He doesn't do soft pedal. But you can bet the frustration is real, because as I read this and I see the numbers, I'm frustrated, and I don't even live in Minnesota. But I know that those federal dollars were paid by hardworking people just like you and me. Because what we're watching here is the consequences of a completely broken system. One that people like Governor Walz not only failed to control, but in many cases actually has defended. Walz even bragged recently that he took responsibility for putting people in jail. Well, the Oversight Committee says he also ignored whistleblowers, kept the money flowing, and retaliated against people trying to report the fraud. So if you came forward and you had information about the fraud and he found out about it and he didn't like it, you might have lost your job. And now he's pointing the finger, of course, at everyone but himself, even blaming a judge who later came out and said flatly, no, this wasn't the court's doing. These payments continued because the state allowed them to continue, meaning, Governor, your administration has allowed this. So here we go again. Billions missing, fraudulent visas, broken systems, and federal investigators scrambling to clean up a mess. And make no mistake, this is exactly why you and me, all Americans, especially in states like Minnesota, are demanding tighter vetting, stronger immigration oversight, and some real accountability, some transparency. We can't keep absorbing people into programs that we can't monitor, that we can't track, that we can't verify, and that is spending our money. We just can't keep doing it, folks. We have over $1 trillion debt that we have no hopes of paying off anytime soon. And when you have billions of dollars going to people who shouldn't even be in our country to begin with, that's just wrong. And we got to stand up, and we have to be heard, and we have to make it clear, time's up. We're going to put an end to this. And look, we have the administration in place right now who will do that. We just have to be loud about it. We have to let our representatives, our U.S. House members, our U.S. senators, our governors, we have to let them know we're tired of this, and we're not doing it anymore. Now, some would argue, well, you know, people are going to go hungry or whatever. Look, people probably did go hungry because these bunch of fraudsters took the money and bought a house with it. Secretary Noem said the Trump administration plans to remove the people who gamed the system and get the money back. Well, I think we can remove them. I don't know that we'll ever get the money back, but at least let's get them out of the country pronto. Today is not soon enough. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, Paul here in Vegas, he says, traveling with my real ID. I'm old school, and I felt getting the ID was an invasion of my rights. I keep getting paper passes like you, as phones have died. I'll keep getting the paper for as long as possible. Eventually, I expect the airlines will be charging for that privilege as well. Of course, Paul is referencing my topic the other day about the TSA charging $45 if you don't have a real ID, and they have to verify you are who you say you are upon arrival. Tony writes, Joey, the mayor of Traverse Rest didn't use Christmas during the Christmas tree lighting Saturday. Interesting. This, of course, in reference to the city out of Portland, Oregon, where they had the Christmas tree lighting over the weekend, but they never mentioned Christmas. Another texter says, I used to live in Portland, Oregon, and it has continually gone downhill year after year. The governor has even said that Christmas will now be known as Inclusive Winter Holiday. Wow. This next story is a real doozy here. You remember when the Biden administration made the big shiny promise to turn the U.S. Postal Service into an all-electric, climate-friendly fleet? Billions of dollars, new trucks, a green revolution for the mail service, it was being called. Yeah, well, here we are, billions of dollars later, and the whole thing looks less like a revolution and more like a government-funded fender bender. According to documents sent to Senator Joni Ernst and obtained by the New York Post, the U.S. Postal Service has spent over $3 billion in taxpayer money, and they've only managed to get 612 electric mail trucks on the road. 612 after $3 billion. That's not a fleet. Well, I don't even know what you'd call that. Almost all of that funding went to Oshkosh Defense up in Wisconsin, the company that Joe Biden tapped to build this new line of battery-powered mail trucks. These were supposed to be the next generation delivery vehicles. NGDVs, they were known, the future. But after $2.6 billion paid out, Oshkosh delivered just 250 trucks on that contract. Senator Ernst said it bluntly when she said, cancel the order, this thing is a failure. And honestly, looking at the numbers, can't disagree with that, can you? USPS confirmed that by mid-November, they had a total of 612 trucks in 15 locations. That means Oshkosh has managed to crank out about 3 to 4 trucks a day. Not exactly the production line of the future, is it? And here's the kicker. While the Postal Service has just over 600 electric trucks actually in service, they've already installed 6,651 charging ports at 75 sites. So if you do the math on that, we have 10 charging stations for every truck. Not going to have to worry about that, are they? Getting a charge on that. It's like building 1,000 gas stations and owning one car. And it gets worse. If you don't think it can, it does. The Postal Service has bought 8,700 Ford E-Transit vans. But they can't even use most of them for mail routes because they're left-hand drive. Mail carriers, of course, need right-hand drive to reach the mailboxes. So these things are just sitting around. Tax-funded lawn ornaments are what they are. Meanwhile, the Biden administration, as they were going out back in January, swore that, the same administration who swore we'd be all electric by 2026 had been quietly buying more gasoline trucks. The Biden administration purchased 40,000 gasoline vehicles. 26,000 of those are already on the road. So the green revolution is being powered by gasoline. I mean, really, folks, you can't make this stuff up. And if you remember the Washington Post story from last year, some of the early Oshkosh trucks literally failed leak tests so badly that water poured out as if the windows had been left open in a rainstorm. One of the workers reportedly said to a media person, "We don't know how to make a damn truck." And well, that's apparent, isn't it? But the Postal Service keeps insisting that they're on track. Senator Ernst summed it up perfectly. She said, "You spent $1.7 billion to produce 612 EVs. That's a tremendous waste," and she's right. If this were a private company, someone would be fired now. But because it's the U.S. Postal Service, backed by the U.S. government, nobody will be held accountable for it. Folks, this is what happens when Washington tries to run a green energy program without accountability. We see this all the time. We talk about it all the time, but nothing's ever done. They just keep doing this. We don't get innovation. We get headlines. We get press releases. And we get billions of taxpayer dollars lighting on fire. I mean, they've just thrown that money away. Just added it to our debt. We actually haven't paid for it yet because it was added to that $30+ trillion debt we have. But isn't that just crazy? I mean, I get frustrated when I see stories like this because I think, well, we'll put a stop to it. Somebody will put a stop to it. And it keeps happening over and over and over. How do you spend billions of dollars on electric vehicles and you've only got 612? I don't know how you do that. I can tell you who made the money, and that was this Oshkosh company in Wisconsin. They made out like a bandit. I guarantee you there's a CEO and some upper-level executives who have gotten rich off of this at our expense. All right, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How do we stop this? Or do we ever stop it? Is getting waste out of government and abuse and fraud out of government, is that just pie in the sky? Are we just never going to be able to do that, regardless of the administration? Now, I know that the Trump administration, they're working very hard on this, but it just seems like it's a never-ending thing. Send me a quick text. Send me an email, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Remember, folks, this is a good time to start your Christmas shopping. And go to mypillow.com and use promo code Joey. You're going to get big savings on every single product. The 6-piece bath towel set I keep telling you about, six-piece set, $39.98. Normally $69.98. When you throw my name around, when you use promo code Joey, you're going to get a great deal on it. So go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.